Well, we're not. We don't have a quarterback situation here. We don't have a quarterback controversy. So, you know, there was a reason and a purpose for what we did last week, and that's over and done with. The reason and the purpose was that AJ had never played in a game. He's a very capable guy. He's going to be a very good player here. He's a great sort of guy to have in the position that he's in right now, but he needed to get game experience. And we have total faith, trust, and confidence in putting him in the game regardless of what the situation was. We were going to put him in the second quarter so he could play, regardless of what the situation was. If the game would have been 7-7, we were going to put him in the game for 2 series in the second quarter. And I have every faith, trust, and confidence in the guy that he'll go do the job and do what he's supposed to do. But he needed to do that because if down the road or even in this game, if something happens to Greg and he has to play, it's not going to be the first time that he ever played. So that was a plan, you know, for him, and that doesn't need to be the plan this week. You know, Greg played 13 for 15 for however many yards he made, and you know, one of those balls were kind of dropped on the sidelines or bobbled out of bounds, and the other one was one poor read, or it had been 15 for 15. So we're not really looking to create anything but some experience for the backup guy, so that if he has to play, he'll be able to do it. And he learned a lot in the game. I mean, he didn't play slow right at the end of the game when we're trying to milk the clock. Right, that if it was a real game and you didn't want to give him the ball back, that would be important. You didn't kneel down on the ball right at the end of the game, which, you know, so we had to kneel down on it again. Snap the ball with 12 seconds on the clock. But that's being a young'un, and that's why, you know, you put them in there and give them experience and they learn, you know, that kind of stuff.
And the follow-up, and you sort of addressed it, but did Greg show you that, you know, now that he's a senior, now that he's had a year, did you see a different Greg McElroy in
Well, I think he's been different all through camp. I think he's had a really good camp. He's more confident. I think his arm has gotten a little bit stronger. He's confident in making throws that I don't think he was confident in making a year ago, and I think that's all going to benefit us in being able to utilize, you know, the skilled players that we have.
Let's go right here at the back.
Coach, you had an opportunity to see Penn State as an assistant in the 70s and 80s, and then at Michigan State in the 90s, and now you're playing for them again this year. Has there been any changes, or are you noticing some of the same things?
Oh, they made changes through the years, and you know, they made changes from last year to this year. A lot of it's based on personnel, you know, some of it in the kicking game in terms of system, but one thing remains the same. They play with a lot of discipline. They play guys that will go out and execute and do their job and not make foolish mistakes or get foolish penalties. And I think they've proven over time that they know how to win in terms of their players, and it's because they are basically a very sound fundamental team in their approach, and you know, they execute what they do. It's not all about fooling you all the time. It's about, this is what we do, so what are you going to do to stop it? And they're pretty good at it.
Hey, Coach. I know the game's here in Tuscaloosa, but growing up from West Virginia and stuff, did you have any feelings toward Penn State? Did you ever see them when you were growing up or anything in action?
Oh, yeah. They used to play West Virginia all the time, and that was a big game. And I went to it when I was a kid. And I don't remember how old I was, but I remember, well, I'm 58, he's been there 45 years, so I had to be at least 13, I guess. But I remember Joe Paterno leading the team out, you know, and we didn't win many of those. I don't know if we ever won any when I was growing up in West Virginia. I was rooting for the Mountaineers, but I mean, it was always the big game to see Penn State.
Chase, last two.
Coach Paterno actually played 2 quarterbacks. A second freshman got in the game late last week. Obviously, Bolden is the primary focus, but does the other freshman who battled for that job all the way through the preseason occupy any of your preparation time? And if so, how much more difficult does that make things?
Well, it's, you guy went in a game when it was 37-7. So, I mean, and they didn't do really anything different with him in the game. He played some last year. He is a good runner, but I think both guys are capable of running. So they do have quarterback runs, and I think they would do them with both of them. So I don't think they have two different offenses is what I'm trying to say. And if they did, they didn't unveil it at 37-7. So, and our whole purpose of putting AJ in was so they'd have two different quarterbacks to prepare against, but we didn't do anything different with either one of them in there. So what matters? What's the difference? And you give us too much credit. I don't think our players are capable of.
Last one, Don.
What was it initially about the Darius decision, 2-game suspension, that you thought was too much? And as an impact player,
There was nothing. I never said it was too much. I just said that, you know, we will appeal it if we think there's precedent to appeal it. And when we researched it, we didn't feel that there was any precedent to appeal it. So, you know, I wish it was less, but when you look at the facts, you have to say, is there any other case that would say that he got an unfair punishment? Even though I may think that I wish it was less as a coach, for him as a player, and for our team, that doesn't mean that when you look at the case precedent of what's been done in the past, that he got treated unfairly. And when that was done, we didn't feel like there was a precedent for an appeal.
And also, what do you need to see out of Mark Ingram this week in order for him to play?
Well, we just need to see him be able to be himself, be 100%, be able to practice enough to be confident and ready. But I'm not anticipating that that's going to happen. I'm anticipating Mark making progress every day, and that we're going to evaluate his progress on a daily basis. And whenever he's ready to play, when he's practiced enough, and he's confident, and he's fully recovered, and the doctors clear him to play because he won't have any future issues, then we'll make a decision to play him. And that decision hasn't been made. So to ask me hypothetical, what do I have to see? I have to see Mark Ingram be Mark Ingram.